Action impact number 8. Here we go. A little later than expected filming this one, but I'm glad I got to it. I hope everyone has enjoyed their Christmas Eve. Um, my day as a whole has been great, and um, yeah, I hope y'all's has too. So here we go. The topic is honesty. This one needs a breather before we even really get started. When I look at honesty, the closest thing I have there is truth. Um, when you look at telling the truth and really just being honest, not only with others but with yourself, just remember it's way easier to remember the truth than it is a lie or a half truth or maybe in an instance where you stretch the truth. It's just way easier to be honest, and I think it's way nicer to live and exist knowing that you were honest with yourself and honest with others. Um, when I look at that, remember this: you're the one that's responsible for being honest. You're not responsible for someone's reaction to you being honest. And I think, and sometimes that really keeps us from sharing the honest truth, is because we're so worried on how someone would react or judge us for what we think and what we believe, that um, we're not willing to share what's completely on our heart. And I know I've been in that scenario before where I feel like spelling out everything could actually harm the situation versus help it. But um, by holding that back, it's only just going to compound the issue, because when things do come to light, and they always do, um, it'll just blow up, and it can cause a negative impact on whatever you're going through. So I recommend you really do start with truth, and maybe if you haven't been living that way, or there's been a couple scenarios that just popped into your head after hearing that, um, time is of the essence. You want to fix that as soon as possible, not for the other person but for you, just so you can stop carrying that weight and that burden, um, because that's toxic. The longer you hang on to something like that, the worse it'll get, and the worse that you feel. So really first on be open and honest with yourself, and by doing that, that'll then allow you to be open and honest with others, no matter what that may be. um, One thing that I look at is half truths. I think this is kind of the gray area that'll a lot of times get us in trouble, where maybe we have good intentions about what we need to say and how we're going to be honest about it, but um, we only give half truths, or maybe we only tell the parts of the story that we know someone would want to hear, and not really dive into the real um, cause and effect. And you have two options when it comes to a half truth. It's you have withholding information, or you have changing the story or changing the narrative with the half truth that you've done. And um, that's it's common. um, I look at it as three types of categories. You have, with half truths, you have marketing. I'm going to get into that in a second. You have posing. I feel like a lot of people know what posing is, or being a poser. And then you have the third one, which is message miscommunication. Um, a lot of times those all happen just maybe not by telling the whole story, or the timing of the story and when you tell someone doesn't necessarily line up with the narrative. Um, when it comes to the marketing aspect, I've dealt with this firsthand several times, and it is true. A lot of times people will get in their own way. Um, the root of marketing is, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And I've dealt with this. When I interviewed for the sales and marketing company, that was my biggest question: is can I morally do this? am I signing someone up for something that they want, or am I just telling them what they want to hear in order to get them to sign up? And what I realize is that honesty is policy, um, but the order of operations in your honesty is actually what'll lead to a sale. I think it's pretty interesting where, if you just tell everyone all of the good stuff right off the bat, for instance, realizing that you can get $700 off your cell phone. If that's the first thing that you hear when you hear, "Hey, would you like a new phone?" You're not thinking, "Holy crap, let me take him up on this deal." You're thinking, "Wait a second, what's the catch? This seems too good to be true." And a lot of times that'll happen in our personal life where it'll seem like, we stretch the truth, or maybe the story doesn't quite line up the way it should have because we weren't honest with ourselves firsthand. But um, the marketing aspect is really interesting because uh, when I sell you something, I'm going to be completely honest with you. But the order in which I give you the information is really important in order for you to make an educated decision and to feel comfortable doing that. The second thing is posing. I've fallen into this a little bit, and it's like the bane of my existence. When I started sports as a kid, and I would say skateboarding was the biggest one for me, where I was like on poser alert. That was like the biggest thing. I didn't want to be called a poser, because there were a lot of ways for that to happen. When I was in the sixth, seventh, and eighth grade, wearing skate shoes to school was a thing, and it started to catch on, and it was really interesting because um, I wore them because it was more convenient. Why would I switch shoes if I'm going to go skateboard after? But a lot of times you would notice where somebody would be wearing shoes or sporting the skating gear just to be up with the trend, and no judgment if that's where you fall into. I recommend you find something to be passionate enough about and buy that clothing. I really do. But it's just interesting to see that at such a young age where you'd have some good friends or acquaintances, and um, they would say all of the cool stuff that they had landed, but where's the video evidence? And um, that's okay, right? When I look at posing, sometimes posing happens because of miscommunication. That one's pretty relevant. I've seen that happen over the last couple of weeks where uh, miscommunication ultimately leads to your interpretation of what you're seeing, and it just makes it all look fake. Um, so just be careful, and yeah, I think you can really get through that just by being honest with yourself. And I don't think it would really offend you if someone brought it up and you were honest. I think it would only offend you if somebody brought it up and you immediately get defensive or try to prove your case. But back into it a little bit, pride definitely gets in the way of honesty. Um, if that was the root of everything here, it's definitely um, honesty, truth, and then obviously setting your pride aside in order to get into that realm. Um, the fear of judgment is what causes pride to get in the way. When you're worried about what someone will think or feel about your honest opinion, um, I recommend you embrace that. Some of the coolest people in my life sometimes have the hardest and the most brutal critiques on what I'm doing, but I appreciate that because it comes from the heart, and they're just being honest with me. Um, this one's pretty interesting here. Friends and relations, they can handle bad news, but they can't handle negative surprises. So when it goes back to giving half truths or, being honest with someone, a lot of times if you're just honest enough that the major root of why you brought it up comes up later on, Um, it'll make you look like a liar, or it'll make you look like it's too good to be true, or that your words have no weight, because instead of just giving them and handling the bad news and just being real with them from the get-go, all these assumptions come into play, and then guess what? Surprise, surprise. So just remember that, I've talked about honesty for almost 11 minutes now, and um, this isn't a hard subject. Just remember, if you have others' best interests at heart, it's way easier to be honest. If you're maybe in a more of a self-centered mindset, it's really easy to slip into half truths, or posing or marketing for your benefit. You just want people to like you, and maybe in your past, bragging and drawing attention to yourself is really what's gotten people to like you. But eventually that'll all fall apart, or it'll start to crumble when someone realizes that your words don't carry any weight. Um, Geez, it's really tough to talk about this, and that's just me being honest. Um, if I really think about it, I don't think we deserve all of the things that we go through, but I think it's important that it happens. Uh, I know this little YouTube Action Impact got jump started by a negative, so let's ride this thing out, right? Uh, I'm gonna leave you with this quote, and when I think about it, before I say this, I have a quick story of uh, one of my least proud moments when I was growing up at the lake was I shot a rock through a window with a lawnmower, and it's such a dumb thing that happened. But when I look at it, um, the sooner that I told my dad what had happened, the better it was. Um, had I just not acted like that was a thing, and maybe brought it up 4 or 5 days later or hours later, he would have noticed by then. 4 or 5 hours later, or just waited for him to notice, that would have been a lot worse of an impact. And it really would have hurt the trust between my father and I, versus, hey, just go ahead and mentioning the negative, and being humble, and knowing that I screwed up. Don't be afraid to say that, right? It's not a big deal to say, hey, sorry, that was dumb, or hey, I screwed up. Um, but the longer you hold your breath on that, the harder it gets to just say it. And, we all screw up. We're human beings. I think that's the coolest part. If we all got it right, life would be boring. If there weren't issues at hand, I would have nothing to talk about. There would be nothing to change, or to help, or to fix. So, um, honesty is the quickest way to prevent a mistake from turning into a failure. I hope you guys have a Merry Christmas. And that concludes Action Impact number 8. Thank you.